You're listening to MJWJ.
Global Radio Network. The Feel-Good Talk Radio Network.
The Feel-Good Talk Radio Network.
And welcome back to Small Business Today Magazine Talk Show on the MJWJ
Global Radio Network.
You know that little sign in and sign out, that's our signature move here at MJWJ. Releases some tension, people get a little nervous. Not Aaron, mind you. Aaron's been here 20-something times.
Well,
he's a regular.
And you and I have developed quite a sense of ensemble.
We do have a great camaraderie. He's everything from having his chair embroidered with his name on it, with a little star symbol. But anyway, we're glad to have Aaron.
I prefer a plaque in the hallway.
Well, we'll see what we can do. But Aaron's a great guest and a great co-host. Enjoy having him on board. And we share a lot of things, and our I think our thoughts on divorce and individuality and commonalities, and that's what I want to lead back in before we get to the generic subject of relationships, as relationships in business. And you guys are waiting to hear about relationships in business. It's coming up. But want to talk a little bit about, two people come together, they find those commonalities. We both like to scuba dive. We both grew up in big families. We, both like the Rocky Mountains. I don't know. We obviously have the same religion, spiritual beliefs. And that's what ties us together, is our commonalities. But it's our individualities that make us so different. And I say we lose it. You say
one does not have to lose one's individuality. Here, essentially, there are 5 major characteristics that I think are the building blocks for a successful, healthy, fulfilling, functional relationship. And unfortunately, too many people that, at least just based on my own experience and what I've encountered, in talking, with others and coaching others, is that they sort of base their decision to enter in relationship to someone based on some gut feeling that they have. And often they will write someone off if they don't feel that gut feeling instantaneously. So I think for any type of relationship, especially a personal one, but also business as well, 5 characteristics for a healthy, functional relationship. 1, respect for one another. 2, shared experiences, like you just mentioned. The 3rd, trust. The 4th, reciprocity. That if it's all about what are we going to get from the other person, then that's why enter into a relationship with someone. And the final one, mutual enjoyment. Because if you aren't enjoying being with that person, then what's the intrinsic motivation to be in a relationship with them?
Right.
And now some couples don't necessarily enjoy being together initially, but that can take time to develop. But I would say trust, shared experiences, respect, reciprocity, mutual enjoyment are probably the core foundational building blocks of a healthy, functional relationship.
3 items.
And respect.
Okay. So, is that what you find with your clients, that something has gone amiss with one of those? The respect no longer is there, the reciprocity?
Usually, I think it.
Or is it like a combination? One goes, the other one goes.
I think all the above. Usually, what I find to be if I had to pick one, I would start with reciprocity, and that usually stems from lack of effective communication skills and conflict resolution, because I frequently hear from my couples clients that I coach that person X is the problem, but I'm perfectly fine because person X is not doing what it is that I want them to do. And they're not getting what it is that they want from person X. But yet person Y will say, well, person X is the problem. There's nothing wrong with me because person X is not, I'm not getting what it is that I want from person X. But never do I hear them say that, talk about, at least initially, how much they love giving of themselves to the other person. And when they're not getting what it is that they want, they always attach the blame and responsibility on the person who should be giving it to them, but rarely do they, at least at first, acknowledge responsibility that, gee, perhaps, maybe I haven't communicated in such a way that's going to evoke what it is that I want, and possibly then some, from the other person.
Wouldn't you agree that men and women communicate differently
Oh, without a question.
and process differently?
Without a question.
All right?
Without
That's
a
why
question.
it's so hard,
Mhm.
I think, for some couples to communicate, so they avoid communication.
And they
What's
don't
your
take,
thought on that?
and they don't take the time, and I think you're absolutely right. And a lot of that, I think, has to, and this is just my own opinion, that it has to do with a lack of understanding for one another. Because one of the things that I do with my couples clients is I facilitate various communication exercises where each person is forced to walk into in the shoes of the other person and look at the world and the situation from the other
How do
person's
you
eyes.
prep them for that?
Well, part of it, I administer an online assessment called the Prepare and Enrich assessment,
Okay?
and based upon that assessment, it points out several growth areas for the relationship, and then I structure various skill building activities that I facilitate with them. It's a common misconception with with coaching, and I'm using the International Coach Federation definition, the governing body and professional organization for professional coaching, that most people view coaching as, okay, you've mastered a particular skill, so you're kind of like in a sports context, so you're teaching that person, other people, a particular skill. As a relationship and divorce coach, certified through ICF programs,
Right.
I am facilitating a client-centered process where it's ultimately about their goals, and they are making the decisions for themselves. And I tell couples that, if they're, especially ones that are in crisis and are on the phone, should stay together, break up, that I say that it's not my job to tell you what it is that you should be or should not be doing. But if you embrace the process, the coaching process I do with them, and do what it is that you're supposed to be, do
Yeah.
what it is that you need to be doing, after 4 or 6 sessions, the answer of what you should do will be obvious to you.
Right. Let me ask you this, Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
Is there one thing
Mhm.
that you think most marriages break down from? Let's say only had one item that causes more divorces than anything else.
Ineffective communication.
That's communication. That's right. That's what I thought.
I know you would see in many surveys, it's either finances or infidelity, but I think
That all stems from
Tho-
communication.
Right.
as well.
I think those are just symptoms of a much deeper disease, which is ineffective communication.
Well, if you have two people communicate differently and two people who process differently, and it doesn't have to be a marriage.
Mhm.
It could be two business partners.
Exactly.
It could be employer-employee,
Mhm.
employee and supervisor. It could be any one of those,
Mhm.
but where there's two different people and they communicate, and we've talked about this before, people don't see what you see because they don't have your eyes.
Right.
They don't have your, what they call in the movies, your POV, your
Mhm.
point of view. What we can look at the same object, and that we talked before, I think once or twice, about Roger Dawson, who's a
Mhm.
negotiation speaker. When he holds up
Absolutely.
his hand to the audience, he says, "What do you see?" And obviously they're seeing a palm,
Mhm.
but he's seeing a backhand.
So-
And so what do you see, and what do they see? And you got to come over to the other
Mhm.
side. But again, spouses avoid communication.
Right.
They
Because
avoid interaction
Mhm.
unless it's
and
sexual.
they forget. I'm about to give on standing on one leg, a short course in basic human relations
Yo,
that it can be applied to our personal relationships and professional relationships. And
Yeah.
here's what needs to be. Here's this course. The least important word to remember is I. The most important word to remember is we. The 2 most important words to remember, thank you. The 3 most important words are all is forgiven. The 4 most important words to remember is what is your opinion? The 5 most important words are, you did a good job.
This is good stuff.
And the 6 most important words, I want to understand you better.
You think that'll work, Latoya, with Barbara? What do you think? Yeah, it could be. Oh, could be. Okay.
If
I like those.
Imagine what the world and relationships could be if all of us remembered this short course in human relationship.
Do those again without number. Just
Least important word, I. Most important word is we. The 2 most important words are thank you. 3 most important words are all is forgiven. 4 most important words are what is your opinion. The 5 most important words are you did a good job. The 6 most important words are I want to understand you better.
What do you think, Ronald? Does that fit? What do you think? Your opinion there.
I think that everything you're saying, I agree with you.
There you go. We have another guest. We have to have 2 guests, both videographers here today. So I'd like to ask their opinion. Make sure there's a pop quiz later, Ronald. When we get down, you have to name one of those. But no, we are here with Aaron Kaplan and talking about relationships with people and other than I don't know, why is it so hard for people to understand other people?
Do we have time to get into that?
Not well. We've got a good 5, right, Latoya? So good.
So that's it's a loaded question, but I think why we fail to understand others is partially fear. We fear what we don't understand and what we don't know. Self-centeredness. It's amazing to me the amount of selfish and self-centeredness that exists that we encounter on a daily basis, especially in business. Failure to appreciate differences. We expect everyone we encounter to think the way we do, operate the same way we do, see the world the same way. Failure to acknowledge similarities. That if you start by acknowledging, and this instance comes up a lot in divorce coaching, where it's all about highlighting the conflict.
Yes.
But what often exists, what's in common, is that both spouses will agree that they both want what's best for their children, and that that each of them are good parents to their children. Imagine how how much could be diffused, especially in divorce contexts, if you start from places of where you agree.
Right.
Imagine in business partnerships that are developed and negotiations, if you start with commonalities where you agree, how you are already helping one another, and then acknowledge that first, and then go into the areas where you need to. It diffuses a lot.
You're right. It's going in with that is perfect. Exactly.
And it changes the dynamic of the conversation because you're viewing one another on a more human level.
You're right. Though I assume most divorcees say, well, they're a good parent.
Mm-hmm.
And they're good for the children, but somehow we're not good as parents for each other.
Yeah.
And therein lies the problem, because there is another disconnect outside of the children.
Right. And even if one spouse might think the other spouse is not as good a parent, they at least want what's best for the kids. But so imagine how quickly things could be resolved if you start with what you have in common.
Is that what you do when you get a client?
It really depends, because everyone's situation and set of circumstances are different.
Are you dealing with more individuals or couples?
When I do divorce coaching, it's only with individuals.
Did you pick one?
Yeah, it's
What
whoever.
they both call you?
That hasn't happened
You'd
yet.
have to refer them somewhere else.
Right, I would have to. It would become a conflict of interest because, if I'm working with
And
divorce,
that's a marriage counselor's job.
Well, marriage counselors treat the clinical. They focus on the clinical, clinical aspects of the relationship, and they diagnose and treat. But in the context of divorce prevention, I will work with both. But I'm actually, in a way, working with one entity, which is the relationship.
Exactly. You and I have talked multiple times about one of the homework assignments I got for marriage counseling was write a list of everything that drives you crazy about that individual and write a list of everything that attracted you to the individual. And it's amazing how many are the same items.
Right, and we often forget, especially in divorce situations, was that there was obviously things about that person we were drawn to and attracted to at the outset, otherwise we wouldn't have married them.
Good point.
So imagine if you tap back into that in dealing in a divorce situation of trying to resolve conflict and crafting a divorce settlement, if you focus and dialogue with that person in a place of remembering what it is that you initially saw in them.
Exactly. We're having a great conversation with buddy Aaron Kaplan, which I expected. He's regular on the show favorite. We're talking about relationships and whether that be personal or whether that be business. We talked about a lot of great things. We have more coming up. If you have a question for Aaron, you can call us at 1-800-970-8716. That's 1-800-970-8716. And you're listening to Small Business Today Magazine Talk Show on the MJWJ Global Radio Network.
Spanning the globe.
MJWJ, Global Radio Network.
You're listening to MJWJ.
Global Radio Network, the feel-good talk radio network.
The feel-good talk radio network.
And welcome back to Small Business Today Magazine Talk Show on the MJWJ Global Radio Network. And by the way, it's suffice to say, if you're an avid fan of the talk show, next couple of days we'll be doing encore broadcasts as it's Rosh Hashanah and the Jewish New Year. So Thursday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Friday night we'll have some of our favorite shows. So you'll want to tune in. I think Thursday is a show with the mayor Anise Parker. And she was a great guest. That was on September 11th. And Kevin Doffing with Sam Safety Equipment, great interview. He'll be the day before. He'll actually be tomorrow. So we're still got to pick one for Friday. But we will be back on Monday after we celebrate the new year, Rosh Hashanah. So anyway, back to Aaron Kaplan, my buddy, and we talk about relationships and connections, connecting with one another. How do we do a better job of that?
I think it all stems from trust and developing trust, and trust comes from integrity. And I think for us, so that we can understand how to connect with one another better, if we can keep in mind that everybody wants to be somebody.
That's true.
And when somebody feels as though you understand them and you believe in them, that kind of helps, break some of the barriers down.
It's true.
And at the same time, that if we can help somebody influence others, we are actually, by our assistance, we are helping in that process. And when it comes down to, when all is said and done, people don't care how much you know until they know that you care about them and their particular needs.
I love it. You're right. They want to know you care. But it seems like in all our connections, there's a disconnect with lack of trust.
Right, and
why is that? Why? I mean, from people on the street to even people who've been friends for a long time, all of a sudden there's something comes up and there's some distrust.
I think that has to do with, goes back to the integrity issue. So I want to throw out a couple of questions for us to consider, especially in the context of business,
okay,
and how we work with customers, employees, clients, etc. Integrity is not based on our credentials. There are so many people out there that are constantly flaunting their credentials,
Yes.
and you could have like 10 different alphabets next to some of their names.
Yes.
And integrity is not confused with one's reputation. And so here are some questions to ask yourself,
Okay.
in both, especially in the case of business and collaborating with others in business. How well do I treat people if I gain nothing? Am I being 100% transparent with others? Am I being the person, that I truly am with the person that I am with? Am I the same person in the spotlight as I am when I'm by myself or surrounded by my family? Do I quickly admit wrongdoing without being pressed to do so? And this is tough given the litigious society that we live in.
Right.
Do I put people ahead of my personal agenda? Do I have an unchanging standard for moral decisions, or do circumstances determine my choices? Do I make difficult decisions even when they have a personal cost attached to them? When I have something to say about people, do I talk to them or about them? And am I accountable to at least one other person for what I think, say, and do?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine how much better customer service could be. Especially, imagine the sales experiences that we could have if sales professionals start to ask these questions.
All good questions.
There's this great Abraham Lincoln quote that I came across when I was preparing for today's show, and it's something that I turn to, when I feel like I'm sort of losing myself, or losing my own authenticity and sense of best self, in trying to develop a business. Abraham Lincoln once stated, "When I lay down the reins of this administration, I want to have one friend left, and that friend is inside myself."
Ooh.
So an even deeper question to ask yourselves, out there in the wide world of radio,
Right.
is when you think about your business, think about the trajectory of your business, because one day all of us will not be running our businesses. When we look back on, in our retirement years and look back at, the body of work that we created and the people we've encountered and served, will we be able to say that our one true friend is inside of ourselves? And as the old Frank Sinatra song stated, did I do it my way?
Do it my way,
And
indeed.
did I do it with integrity? And can I look myself square in the mirror and be proud of the person that I am?
I like it. I like it. We are talking to my buddy Aaron Kaplan, his frequent show guest and co-host with me today, and Barbara is out on personal things. But if you have a question for Aaron, you still have time to call in at 800-970-8716. That's 1-800-970-8716. And you're listening to Small Business Today Magazine Talk Show on the MJWJ Global Radio Network. And welcome back to Small Business Today Magazine Talk Show on the MJWJ Global Radio Network. So, Aaron, we've got to wrap this up in just a short period of time. The time goes so fast when you and I get together. But tell me how we can better serve and lead people.
Well, some of this may be a bit unpopular,
Okay.
because I understand people, a major reason for going into business is to make money.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think if we approach our businesses as that we are in business out of the desire to serve people out of love,
Right.
and the love of service, I think that makes a huge difference. I hope we possess the confidence with which to serve others, even when others are questioning your abilities. Put others ahead of your own agenda. I would also suggest initiate service to others, initiate the desire to help other people as opposed to people having to grovel to you.
Yes.
And and please don't be position conscious. I have never had, the only people that have ever asked about my specific coaching certifications or degrees are people that had no desire to coach with me or did not want my services. Every single client I've ever worked with has never, ever asked about my credentials and certifications, nor do they care. Because all they care about is, how can you help me?
That's true. Good point. Are we doing?
And how can you help alleviate my pain?
We've got to, we're going to have to end the show. Had too many commercials. But your last words of advice and contact information.
Contact information, you can contact me at www.kaplanprojectcoaching, K-A-P as in Peter, L-A-N, www.kaplanprojectcoaching.com.
There you go. If you're too shy to ask a question, then there you go. There's the website. Always a pleasure, Aaron. And I think you know the end of this, where we're going. The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of MJWJ Global Radio Network and staff, but it should be. And you've been listening to Small Business Today Magazine Talk Show on the MJWJ
Global Radio Network.
Spanning the globe.
MJW.